Welcome to Nurturing Our Roots, the journey from slavery to freedom live Zoom sessions with Antoinette and Karen. We're live every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. This talk show where ordinary people with extraordinary family stories can be heard. If you have a family story and would like to share it with us, please, please call us or contact us at nurturingourroots@gmail.com. I'm Antoinette, and this is Karen. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Hi, Antoinette. How are you?
I'm excited to hear from our guest tonight. And before I turn it over to you, let me just welcome this very special woman who I really admire so much for all the work that she have done in the community. None other than my sister friend Claudette Smith Brown, and it's just a pleasure to have her to join us tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So what I would like to do before I disappear for a minute, I know people might want to know, what am I doing? Well, when you all don't see me, it's because I am bringing everything up on YouTube for everyone to follow us. But in the meantime, what I need to do is just give Karen something to talk about for a minute. Okay, Karen, so here's at you while I disappear for a moment.
Well, so nice to meet you, Claudette. And again, welcome to Nurturing Our Roots. I can't wait to get into your conversation tonight. And so tonight you're going to be talking to us about some of the important role that some of the women in your life have have helped to guide you to who you are today. I'm just really excited to learn so much more. Antoinette has had the pleasure of knowing you for many, many years. So this is my first time meeting you. So hello there.
Hello back.
Um, is this your first time being on Nurturing Our Roots?
I think it is.
Yes. I came into Nurturing Our Roots in 2016 when Antoinette brought me on to be her co-host, but she had been hosting the show for many years out of Cox, the Cox Cable Access Studios in New Orleans. So I'm just so glad that we're here online so that we could share you and so many others with an even broader audience. So, what are some of the types of things you're going to be talking about tonight? Who are some of the women who have played a role in your life?
Well, I'm fortunate enough to have been brought up with both my grandmothers and one great grandmother living when I was a child. So I'll talk about them and some of the research I've done to try and unearth other members of the family.
That's wonderful. With this being Women in History Month, it's important that we all acknowledge the women in our lives and the role that they have played in making us who we are today. I know that I can think back to my grandmother and my nan, in addition to my mother. But, as a child, you often cherish those memories with the grandmothers. And and I know everybody, as people begin to join us in the chat room, everybody has a special person, a special woman, at least one, if not many, who played a really important role in helping them to be who they are.
And Karen, I just want you to know everything is set up now so you can let people know the chat room is open. Um, and most of us, we have had so many women in our families that help shape our life. But I would really want to hear from Claudette about her grandmothers. Is that on your mom and your dad's side that these women influence your life, these two grandmothers?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about, let's start off with your dad's side of the family. What is so special about your grandmother on your dad's side of the family that you want to share with us?
Uh, Her name was Melvina Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And I come out of a family where the women in the family are very strong and very serious about life. So that was my environment in the households that I grew up in. Mama Mitt was very serious, and she raised 10 children. So when I hear women today talk about one child or children and how hard it's going to be, I can't really relate to that. The family lived in rural area, Jackson, Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
and then they moved to Port Hudson.
Mm-hmm. And Jackson is in East Feliciana Parish.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. And Port Hudson is on that borderline between East Feliciana and East Baton Rouge Parish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They were just serious women. I guess you'd have to be to raise 10 children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My grandfather had 8 children before he married her, and those 8 helped to raise the 10.
Okay, so it's 18, a total of 18 children combined.
Right. My dad was the baby.
Okay.
Okay. Ask me some questions, because I'm not much for talking about me.
Okay, so when you say serious, explain to us what type of serious. I mean, I know we all come from those serious line of people that just didn't play. You knew the difference between the adults and the children.
Right.
But there was love and affection in the house.
Right. There was love and affection in the house, but they were still serious Black women.
Mm-hmm.
On my grandmother's side, my dad's mom, she didn't work.
She was a housewife.
She was a housewife.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to see that aspect of being a Black woman. Mm-hmm. Then on my mom's side, my grandmother taught school.
Okay.
So during the school year, she cooked 2 meals a day. During the summer, she cooked 3 meals a day.
Now, where was mom's side? Was it all in East Feliciana?
They both are in East Feliciana. My mother's people are from the Clinton area, and my dad's people are from the Jackson area.
So when you're doing your genealogy research, you're really in one place.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. When the children come, they spread out later on. Mm-hmm. But my grandparents, when I go back, I'm in East Feliciana Parish.
Okay. Now, I do want to ask this question. Most of your family members who passed away out of that 18, and when they passed away, are they buried in East Feliciana as well?
Yes.
What's the name of the cemetery? Do you know?
Most of them are at FT Cemetery. Some of them are at Southern Memorial Gardens.
Okay. And that is in East Feliciana?
That's in East Baton Rouge Parish, Southern Memorial Gardens. But the FT Baptist Church Cemetery, that's in East Feliciana Parish.
And is that where your grandmother is at?
That's my grandmother, my grandfather, my dad, and two uncles.
And two uncles. Mhm.
Hmm.
Claudette, do you remember any of the old quilts that your grandmother made? Are there any still in the family?
No, I lost the quilt. I had one that my great grandmother made.
Oh, wow.
And when I moved from Memphis to Atlanta, that quilt got lost.
Okay.
And I don't know what to do because Mama quilted different than I see people quilting today.
Uh-huh.
She made pocket quilts where you stuff the squares,
Uh-huh.
then you sew them together, and then you put a backing on that.
Mm-hmm.
Most people I see quilt today don't quilt like that.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
So you spent a lot of time with your grandmothers?
I spent all my until sixth grade.
Mm-hmm.
I spent time with my mother's mother
Mm-hmm.
because my mom taught school, my grandmother both taught school in East Feliciana Parish.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's why I did elementary school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I did junior high in New Orleans. And by then, my mom had bought a house in Baton Rouge, and I did senior high, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade at Scotlandville.
Mm-hmm. Is there any Indian ancestry in your line at all?
There's double on all my sides. There supposedly is. My dad's people mixed with Native American, and my mom's dad's people and her mother's people are mixed with Native American.
And the reason I say that, because every time I look at you, it's just like something speaks like there's some Indian ancestry in you. Do you see that, Karen?
I was just thinking the same thing before you said anything. I could see it. Look, I'm into the DNA without even seeing
Yeah.
it. And I wouldn't care if the DNA results came back saying there wasn't. I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just say this here, because I do believe in telling my sisters that they're beautiful. And I just want to say, Claudette, you have been one person that I have known for many years that's beautiful inside and out. You are such a beautiful woman. You
Thank
really
you.
are.
Thank you.
You really, and your smile just lights the world up to me. Every time I see you
Dimples.
smile,
You see those dimples?
those dimples. So from one sister to another, you are a beautiful woman. You really are, queen.
Well, I think the same of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And when we uplift the community and we think about what the women, those strong, and I know you had to come from somebody strong because you're a strong woman. You know,
Yeah,
you are strong.
I think that comes from being around and being raised by strong women.
Uh-huh.
My mom was a very strong woman too, so it it's genetic.
Yes, yes. And it's so beautiful to talk about them. My mother passed away a year ago this month. And
Mm-hmm.
although my mother is not here, I feel that she is, because she's in everything that I do,
Yeah.
and just thinking about her, I feel her presence, and a lot of things that I do is because of my mom. So you both ladies, you all know they are here.
Mm-hmm. And the older you get, the more you see those ways come out in how you do things and how you look at life.
Isn't that beautiful, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's remarkable that we can say that the women, the grandmothers, the aunts, and even the neighbors and the cousin down the road or down the street, they all played a major role in our lives and who we are today. Now,
Yes.
what about your aunties? Did you have any aunties that influenced your life?
My grandmother on my mom's side, there's 10 of them. And I didn't grow up around the boys because by the time I was born, the boys and my great grandfather were dead.
Uh-huh.
So it's my grandmother's sisters that had a lot to do with my life.
Mm-hmm.
They are, I've lost the feed, so I'm trying to get back to you.
Okay.
They are,
This is technology. Are you there, Karen?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Until she come back in, this is good, you know. Um, and we just want to thank
Here.
everybody. Thank everybody for tuning in because I know we're having some bad weather in most of parts of Louisiana, but we're here to carry it on. So are you back with us, Claudette?
nope, I'm still trying to get my way back.
Okay, when you get your way back, and let us know. But we can hear you.
Okay,
We can hear you and we can see you as well.
okay.
Uh-huh. Now, did y'all, I know there had to be a lot of good meals at that table. I know it.
Oh, both sides of the family are good cooks. So home cooked meals is my thing.
Yes, boy. Yeah, yeah. What was Sundays like growing up at your grandmother's house?
Sundays was church.
Was church? Uh-huh. All
The,
day? Or did y'all go to church all day, or did y'all get out of church and at least get a break and have some food to eat?
uh, my grandmother's church, they used to do a lot of cooking and serving at church.
Oh, they did.
She belonged to a Baptist church in Clinton, St.
So,
John.
so she bought her food to church, or did they serve it out the trunk? Like I hear some people say
The
they would
trunk,
go around to different cars.
no, they served out of trunks because back then they
Uh-huh.
didn't have the building that they have today where they serve.
Okay, so everybody would just go around to those different trunks and get something to eat?
Right.
Yeah, Karen, have you ever heard of that?
I did not know of that. Uh, that might have been more of a rural custom
Uh-huh.
because I
Uh-huh.
never ever heard of that. Sounds like a good plan, but I'd never heard of that.
So Claudette, you went around to the trunks as well?
No, normally I waited until I got home.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of times for different events and all, they would serve the visiting members to the church. And Saturdays would be my day to do the prep work for the cooking. So I told them I shucked enough peas and all that for a lifetime.
Wow. Yeah, you're the second person I done heard talk about the fact that the women would bring their meal to the church and all the different cars would just open up the back of the trunk and there would be cakes, homemade food for days and and that's how they fellowship together.
I love that. I love that concept.
My dad's family is Baptist, and my mom's family is Baptist, and my grandfather on my mom's side is AME.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
those are the two churches I grew up in, the AME church and the Baptist church.
Okay. Uh-huh. Now let's talk about your genealogy. When you start researching your family history, what side did you start off? Did you start off on your dad's side or your mom's side?
Oh, I think I kind of started off on both sides at the same
Okay.
time.
Mhm.
My grandfather on my dad's side was born in 1864.
Mhm.
So he was born enslaved.
Okay.
Um, and he did not die until ooh, the 50s, the end around the middle of the 1950s.
So you remember him.
Yeah, I grew
Mhm.
up in households that my mom's parents are born in 1892 and 1888,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
and my dad's parents are 18 like 71 and 1864.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's a lot of my research was just documenting stories I had heard growing up.
Uh-huh.
That's how it
Uh-huh.
started out. And then it kind of expanded. My dad's people are from Virginia. Not my dad. Well, yeah, he is too. Um, my grandfather on my mom's side lineage comes out of Culpeper, Virginia.
Okay. Did you find any photographs in the families? Did anybody have photographs to share with you doing your research?
My grandfather had a photo album of his family.
Oh, wow.
He did not even know who the people were. But they from the Rogers family. And I don't have really a lot of old pictures from my father's family.
But you kept the photographs, although you can't identify them, you kept them.
Right, I still have the album.
Okay. That's amazing. What about the family Bible? Did anybody have the family Bible?
Not for their families. My grandparents had Bibles. But their Bible was for their family forward. It didn't have the ancestors or anything listed in it. My grandmother, maternal grandmother, her mother didn't die until I was in like second grade.
Oh, really?
So that story has been a little bit harder to pull together because when I grew up, all I ever heard was that she was Native American. So the family, I don't know, back then, my mom's generation and the generation before her, they didn't seem to be as interested in the genealogy aspect. So it's been recent that I found out who my maternal grandmother's grandmother was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as Family Search puts more records online, I'm able to go back and pick up and fill in. But basic story, I guess I grew up knowing that. So mine was more looking for documents to bear witness to what I already knew.
Did you find a lot of documents to bear witness to that?
I did. The clerk of court's office in East Feliciana Parish is in Clinton. And as you know, they have a conveyance index that will take you to all the paperwork that you need to find most of that.
Do you know how they end up and whom they end up with in East Feliciana when they came down from Virginia? Do you know?
The slaves came in from Virginia. One of the slave merchants that was active in East Feliciana Parish was Humphrey Taylor and J. Warren Taylor. When J. Warren brought my great grandmother down, I think that's the third. He sold her on the steps of the courthouse in Clinton to Whitney B. Rogers. And that's when they took on that name Rogers. Before that, I don't know what the name was. J. Warren Taylor and Humphrey Taylor are probably two of the largest slave dealers in East Feliciana Parish. And J. Warren ended up living in Jackson, Louisiana. Humphrey never moved to Louisiana. He left Virginia and I think moved somewhere toward West Virginia. And he had relatives or children that stayed from West Virginia south into Louisiana.
Now, Claudette, what I noticed is that when I went back to East Feliciana, I didn't see any plantation houses or any of the slave quarters. You wouldn't even think that it exists there, but it did. Did you ever find any there?
They're there, but they aren't necessarily on routes that you pass by.
Uh-huh.
And I was reminded that the plantation was not necessarily where the big house was.
Okay.
Because the plantation was really the farmland, the agricultural land.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times the actual living quarters aren't on that maybe plot of land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Taylor household is in Jackson behind FT Baptist Church.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That is Porter and Taylor law firm.
Okay.
Oh.
Comes out of that family.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
They had other slave merchants there, but I haven't been able to find anybody in my family that came through any of the others.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
A lot of Clinton's history is in a book that talks about when the families came to the Feliciana.
Pioneers, yes, yes.
Right.
I saw that book.
Right. So
did any Harrells marry into your family? Did you find anybody back in that period marrying into your family at all?
Not that I know of.
Okay, all right. Karen, I know you got a look on your face. What that look is about?
Because I was wondering if we were related in some way. Since, you know, that's where so much of our family comes from.
Yeah.
Everybody in these Feliciana parishes is related in some way.
In some way, yes.
You know what I'm saying? Either by blood or by marriage. I'm still trying to get back to you where I can see you. Hold on.
Okay, we can see you. We can see you. And it's very good to really talk about talk to someone else who are from that area just to find out a lot of information about Clinton, Louisiana. Because Clinton is the parish seat.
Mm-hmm. Clinton
and what I like, Claudette, they have very good records to look at, and it's very organized.
They are, and a lot of my information I found in the clerk of court's office.
Okay. So you looked at the succession records of the slaveholder family?
No, I looked at the conveyance records of the slaveholders, because the conveyance record, back then we're property. So any big sales transaction is going to be posted in that conveyance index. And then you go from the conveyance index to the actual document.
So you saw the document where your ancestor was sold.
That's on my grandfather's side.
Now, looking at that record for the first time, and I want you to walk us back there with you. What was that like when you first finally saw a document where an ancestor was being sold?
It was interesting because before I went to the courthouse that day, I had already gone to the old home places and fed their ancestors.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I was getting ready to leave Clinton, and I said, I'm going to the clerk of court's office and see what I can find today. So I went in the conveyance book, and I knew who the seller and the buyers were. So I looked for their names in slave sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I went from that book to the actual bill of sale for Lucy, who was brought in from Virginia. She was 16 and Amos was 4 months old.
Wow. Was that her child? Amos was her child?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. 16.
I literally, the conveyance index will give you a book and a page number.
Uh-huh.
So I asked for that book. They brought me that book and I just opened it. And it was the slave sale paper was on the page that I opened it to
Oh, wow. Yeah.
without even looking.
Yeah.
So I knew that they wanted the story told and known just as bad as I did.
Uh-huh. Wow. Yeah, I've had that happen so many times. Karen, you have any questions you would like to ask?
In your research, especially the research going back to Virginia, how far back in time were you able to go and find documented records of your ancestors?
Virginia records are, it's 1836 when my great 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 grandmother is sold from Virginia to Louisiana. So her life in Virginia, I have not been able to find anything on. But I know that the Taylors at one time lived in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a matter of me going to those census records and records up there to see what information they have.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the Porter Taylor law firm. I'm actually familiar with that law firm. So you're saying that those Taylors have a connection to that Porter Taylor law firm?
Yeah, that
Interesting.
Buffington Taylor founded Porter and Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffington is Jay Warren's grandson.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So, most of our history is tied into their history.
Of course.
And a lot of them are trying to distance themselves from their history.
Mm-hmm.
But the money made during our enslavement is the money that started most white families
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
their journey.
Of course. Of course. Now, are you the only person in your family who's researching or have searched for family history? Are you the only person?
No, but for some reason, family doesn't always want to share
Yes. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they find. So
Uh-huh.
even there are other members of the family on different levels that have done research. We haven't really sat down and compared what we found.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you have an extensive collection of funeral programs in your family, in your collection?
I do. I have the family funeral programs. But even that, my problem is I'm a historian, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Is that what you retired from? That was your occupation?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
When I worked at Southern, I was secretary to the director of the law library.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
A lot of information in funeral programs is either inaccurate or incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use them to research, but they aren't always going to give you the correct information because a lot of times the people who are actually doing the programs don't know that information.
Especially the younger people now, they don't know. We was just talking about that today. A lot of the younger people know nothing,
Right.
nothing, not even grandmother's name.
I was gonna say that very same thing. Some of them don't even, because they know about a nickname. Big Mama, Mama. They don't even know their actual name.
That was something I found out in doing some of the research. A lot of people don't know people's real names. So that becomes a problem too. Because for a lot of people, they're dealing with nicknames. Or the names they call people by. And in most instances, the nickname is nowhere close to the name itself.
Right.
So you have to, I don't know how, if you are not familiar with some of the history, you can find a lot of stuff. Because you have to have something to go back on and search for. My mother's grandmother, my great-grandmother, this Native American, for the past, I'd say 20 or 30 years, I haven't been able to get her back past 1871 when she was born. And then I went on Family Search and they had finally shared her death certificate.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And my grandmother, when they shared my great-grandmother's death certificate, my grandmother is the one who filled it out. And she had her grandparents' names on it. And that was the first time I'd ever seen them. I knew where they were.
That put you back another generation.
Right. I kind of let my research fall in place. I'm not really pursuing it right now actively. But as stuff comes in, I just add it to the bigger picture.
What are your plans for your research? I know that after we spend decades researching, and I know we don't want it to be lost again, do you have any plans with sharing it or leaving it to someone in the family that is showing an interest to it, or are you considering just donating it somewhere? And after you answer that question, Karen has a question for you.
I plan on putting it together in some type of publication. And it down to my grandchildren.
Wonderful.
So they'll have it.
Yeah, that's a plan. Karen, your question is?
Yes, you mentioned that finding the documentation of your Native American ancestor. Are there any family stories that were passed on to you that you've been able to either confirm or disprove with your research?
Not with Mama Tempe. The family talked about the fact that she was Native American. And I grew up around her until 1956. But I wasn't able to find any information on her other than knowing that she came to Louisiana from Georgia to Mississippi to Louisiana. So when I got that death certificate, her death certificate listed her parents on it. And that helped me to be able to go back and do research now on her.
That takes you another step.
Yeah.
We have a question from the chat room. It says from Salvatrice Hutton, what have you done to engage young people in genealogy?
Hi, Salvatrice.
When I interact with the younger generation, Hold
in
on.
your family. Uh-huh.
I have a cat that's giving me a problem. Uh,
So
most of
have you
Be on
have you
camera.
engaged the younger people?
just tell them they need to go back and research
Mm-hmm.
and point them in the direction to find some of the information they're looking for on a personal level.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Most of them want this information,
That's wonderful to hear.
you know,
Yes.
but this generation is not willing to do the work it takes to dig out stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They just want somebody to do it and hand it to them. And I don't think they appreciate it as much as when you have to do that research and go and dig for yourself to find out where your grandparents are, where your great grandparents came from, and all of this. And I don't think this generation has a full understanding of how our enslavement affected and impacted us on a personal level. I think they buy into this one big story of how it all happened, and every family story is individual.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
So until they can deal with it from that aspect, uh, a lot of them I find, especially since I did my DNA testing,
Mm-hmm.
their idea of our past is far from the reality of
Mm-hmm.
what that was really like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I wonder if they understand then how, after having that information should impact your daily life
Mm-hmm.
and your moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
Karen has another question coming from Salvatrice from the chat room. The mic is yours, Karen.
Yes, Salvatrice would like to know if you often go to the cemetery and do you have a favorite ancestor?
that's putting me in a bad position. I really do. My mom's father and I were probably closer than um, anybody else in my life.
Oh, really? Uh-huh. Your grandfather.
My grandfather. Uh,
Wow.
what was the other part of the question?
Do you often visit their tombstones in the cemetery?
I don't know what people would call often. At least once a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I clean the graves and do what I'm gonna do. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but well, yeah,
Yeah.
at least once a year I
Okay.
go.
Thank you.
Mm. And that's just about how often I go, maybe twice a year sometime. But I just want to say that I recorded, me and my youngest son and my friend girl, we recorded 9 cemeteries in St. Helena and Tangipahoa Whole Parish. And so, and it's always good to do it in the fall or the spring. So I missed this time because of all the snakes that is, the snakes are moving around. But
Hmm.
one thing for everybody that's listening, I just want to say that please make sure that you put a headstone on your loved one's grave. Most churches had the deacons in the church would maintain those cemeteries. They would maintain the cemetery. So we have gotten away from some of those values that they would pass on. And so we have to find ways to engage the young people into being the keepers of the cemetery, the records, the photographs, the oral history of our families, because we're losing it.
I agree with that.
Mhm.
And uh, from a cemetery standpoint, I think when we got more commercial with the cemeteries,
Mm-hmm.
We have lost that respect for that sacred space that we should have.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the landscaping equipment and all is really too heavy for a cemetery with graves and headstones and all of that in it. So
Yeah.
it requires that we give some thought to how we maintain and upkeep our cemeteries.
Right, right. And you know, when we reflect upon family, I was thinking today how much I enjoy going back in the past and learning from those who have passed on. I know a lot of people probably say, how could the dead teach you anything? The dead can teach us a lot, those that's physically gone. And sometimes it feels good going back in the past and learning, because sometimes the living dead is the most dangerous people. You know, not wanting to know. There's an African proverb that says, not to know is bad, but not to want to know is even worse.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
so we have to lift up, continue to lift up and honor our ancestors and honor those lessons and carry on those lessons and pass them down to the family, to the those that is coming behind us, because we are the elders now. You know, we can't look around and say all the older people, most of them are gone, but we got to realize that we are the elders now. That is our position. And I can only hope that I can carry out my role and my position in my time wisely, like they did in their time, because they was very wise people. You know, some would know a little form of education, but a whole lot of wisdom that carried them through. And Claudette, I don't have to tell you, and Karen, I don't have to tell you, in 1900, we owned more acres of land and more property than we own in 2021. And that's coming from people who couldn't read and write, but they was determined to buy a piece of place, a home for their family members.
Mm-hmm. That's what happened in my family.
Yes. Yes. And those women, like your grandmother, they were canned, they were sold the quilts. When you walk into somebody's home, it wasn't the riches that you would look at, it was that home feeling and that love that you felt when you walked through those doors. And there was always a big, come on, give me a kiss, give me a hug, you know, and it just was a beautiful feeling. Grandmother looked like grandmother. Grandmother dressed like grandmother. Grandmother talked like grandmother. It wasn't like what we see today.
It was nothing like what we see today.
Nothing like that. And so, Claudette, we want to thank you for being a guest right here on Nurturing Our Roots to share and to uplift your grandmother, your aunts, and all the women of the village, because I see a little bit of you, you know, that someone influenced you to make you that beautiful, powerful, intelligent, brilliant woman that you are today.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
being a guest on Nurturing Our Roots. Carrie, you have something you would like to say to her?
Oh, I just want to thank her for all of the work that she has done and what she has shared with us and the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claudette. And so this is what this show is all about. And I just want to say, this is the talk show where ordinary people with extraordinary family stories, because we do know that some of the other shows focus more on celebrities, but we want to focus on the everyday people that have beautiful, extraordinary stories that they would like to share with us. And this is what it's all about. What Karen and I have decided to do is once a month, we have decided to help someone look for basic research. But in order to do that, you got to follow us, like us, and share the page with your friends on your site, because this is what it's all about. And so that's what this show is all about, is keeping family connected through family history. And before I just go here, I want to just share something with you all. Please
Thank you for joining us on Nurturing Our Roots. Please give us a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss any of our videos.
Please do so. And now, in order for us to help you with your family history, you must know something about your family history, and you need to tell us why it's important. And the email that you can provide that information is nurturingourroots@gmail.com. And please know that you will be giving us permission to look for your family history right here with you. We're going to walk this journey with you because it is your journey. And so, because we want to see that look on your face when you see that we have found your ancestors. Karen, you want to add anything to that?
And I just want to encourage you to, if you want to, also do a DNA test. That will also help us with finding some ancestors that you never knew you had.
And that's why it's so important, because family is the most powerful resource it is on this planet. But we're seeing that family looks different these days. As Claudette shared earlier, how her family on a Sunday would get together and they would bring the food to the church and they would go around from a different cause. That's the second time I've heard that from somebody. But we must remember that we are powerful as family. We're not in competition with each other's family. We're here to uplift each other, to honor the lessons of our ancestors, and to pass it on to the generations that is yet to come. Those beautiful family photographs, the oral histories. Matter of fact, you can take the oral history that was passed down to you and record it and have it transcribed to make a beautiful book with it. My mother gave me a lot of birthday cards. And so I'm doing something very special with those birthday cards my mom gave me. I decided to make a blanket out of them. And so each one of those cards that my mom gave me, I am going to make a blanket and wrap myself in those words that my mother hand wrote to me. And just to have that to pass it on, it is so beautiful. So I just want to say to everyone, family is important. Do not let anybody tell you that it's not. This show, Nurturing Our Roots, the journey from slavery to freedom, is everything that happened in between and still going on. So, co-host, is there anything that you want to add to that?
I just want to encourage people to start having those conversations with the elders right now, because especially during this pandemic, we're losing so many people. And each time we lose someone, that's a lot of family history that is lost. Don't put it off. Start doing that right now. Start gathering that information, even if you don't know anything but your parents' names, your grandparents' names. Begin to gather that information and subscribe to our channel so that you can be one of the people. We're going to look at your stories, the information that you have, and we're going to choose someone to share, to do further research and share your story right here on Nurturing Our Roots. So begin to gather those family stories, because that's something we can't get. Gather those family stories. So important.
And I want to add to that, when we do that, when we research the family history, we're giving a gift to the entire family. It's just not something that we keep to ourselves. When my mother passed away, my youngest brother, Michael, he inherited my mother's car. And inside the car, her trunk, there was a big container of photographs. And he said, I know who I'm going to bring that to. He brought those pictures to me. And I love that he thought about sharing it. And when he thought about sharing the photographs, I went and I looked at all the photographs and I'm putting them in different piles to give to someone, who give to different family members, because I'm preserving them electronically, but I want to share them. And this is what this is all about. No, we don't own a family member exclusively. They belong to the family. And so sharing those photographs is a great way to share with family. My mom had obituary family funeral programs. She had church programs in her collection. And so I do what I do because of my mom. My mom is the one that started me off. And so when I look at my mom's name has been documented in folders in the collection at Southeastern and the Amistad, I know one day when I'm no longer here and great great grandkids, they will learn about their great great grandmother or fourth great grandmother and what she left. And so every day when I work on my collections, I'm preparing myself. And when I clean out my collections, I'm thinking about my day when I will no longer be here. And as I would say to anyone, I have more days behind me than I have in front of me. And I am not afraid to deal with my collection because I wanted to go where I wanted to go, and that's and I don't want to put that burden on my two sons, my grandchildren, or my husband. So each day I work on it. I get things out of my house. I put them where I want them to go because if not, out of not knowing, they probably would throw it away or just leave it sit there and then it'll be lost again. So when I created each Facebook page and share with family, that's what I'm doing because everyone can go on Facebook and they can take a copy of the photograph. And that way, and not just when we die, look at it, we're in basically tornado season. So if a tornado was to hit my home and take away everything that I have, I do feel like I haven't lost everything because there's a lot of things I share on social media sites.
Absolutely. And that, as you said that we have, I don't know about where you are, but the rain is pouring. We're having a stretch of really, really bad weather. We could have a tornado any day because
Any
we're going to have
day,
a few
yes.
days of bad weather. So, and we don't want to lose anything.
And I was telling my cousin that the other day, I said, we have to evolve with technology and share, at one time I can understand when family members didn't want to share photographs because, it wasn't like you had a Kinko's or Office Depot or home office. People would just take the photographs and they wouldn't bring them back, but now we can take our phone and take a picture of a photograph. So it's just very important. And once again, everybody, please help to spread the word about this weekly broadcast because like we said, it's the talk show where ordinary people with extraordinary stories can be heard right here. You do not have to be a celebrity. My family members is more than a celebrity. They are my heroes. They are my sheroes. If I don't talk about them, who will? If I don't uplift them, who will? And so they don't have to do something extraordinary for me to recognize them. They survived that cotton plantation. They survived the sugarcane plantation, tobacco. They survived the worst atrocities in history. So for that alone, I salute them and I honor them.
And also keep in mind, by sharing their stories on Nurturing Our Roots, you may be helping other family members to find out about their family members who are also your family members.
Exactly. And so before we close out, once again, please remember, everybody, we want you to hit that bell, hit those notification buttons, and like us right here and share our page.
Thank you for joining us on Nurturing Our Roots. Please give us a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss any of our videos.
And once again, we want to thank our special guests. We have a great show coming up next week. And please tune in because she has a lot to share about not only the history, but the organization that she's affiliated with. So once again, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host so she can close us out on this segment of Nurturing Our Roots, the live Zoom session broadcast weekly.
All right. Thank you again, Claudette, for joining us. And we will see you all next Tuesday at 7 p.m. You can continue the conversation in the comments section down below. Also, give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss any of our shows. See you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you once again, Claudette, for being a guest on our show.